Hello world, it's your cousin Classy, uh, coming at you today, hopefully to unite, bring together, or offer some understanding to the melanated or black or darker colored, copper colored people here in America. There's a lot of fear going on with this coronavirus, with people being shot dead, people being unfairly locked up, unfairly treated, kicked out, all these things that have to do or that affect what I consider my community or the black community. A lot of times we go through these things and we experience these things and we feel as if the world is against us and we don't have an answer. Like, what can we do? Because you kind of get tired of begging the same people who are oppressing you, right? So one thing I know for sure we can do is adopt this one word, nationality. And by adopting a nationality, it grants one proper status or puts him in a position of being respected as a national of a country rather than an inferior or a subject of a nation, right? And a lot of times, us as black people, we cling on to everybody else's way of living, and that's not for no reason. A lot of our culture and customs have been severely suppressed and kept away from us so that we could look lost or be deemed as, it will make the society question, is this really God's people, right? Because it tells you in the Bible, my people shall be lenders and not beggars, right? But you see a lot of us begging and a lot of us living below the status of greatness. I feel is the best way to put that. So a lot of it has to do with nationality. And what is nationality? The definition is a common racial ethnic group designed to help and protect, right? And what nationality does, it grants one the status that allows a nation to grant rights to its subjects for protection from other nations. Now, we could agree that we've been subject to a lot of atrocities from other nations, right? And it goes back to us not knowing our own culture and customs, right? So where does this word nationality come from? How does this help me, right? We can look into the Bible, right? In Micah 4, right? And the origin, Micah 4, for this word is one must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and none shall make them afraid, right? So what is a vine and a fig tree? It's a national flag. Oh, we don't have a national flag. Oh, yes, we do. Black or melanated or colored, copper colored people in America, we do have a nationality. It's just been stripped and hidden and been in the dark for so long that we don't know that we have just as much status as a Chinese American, as a Mexican American, or as a Chinese national when they're in Chinese or when they're in China, right? So what is our nationality? Our nationality is Moorish American. So if you break down this word, Moorish American, what is a Moor? A Moor would be our forefathers, people from the land of Mu, or as the Bible tells us, Adam, who was made from the mud, land of Mu, or the original man. So the original dark carbon-hued man was a Moor, whether he wanted to be or not. He was a Moor. What is Ish? Ish meaning we are not the original Moors, so we're carrying on their tradition. So we're Moorish American. No different than the Jews being in Israel, right? They're not the original Jews. They're carrying on a Jewish tradition. So we are Moorish American. And the breakdown of, first I'll break down the word Moor, right? So if we break down the word Moor, and the dictionary definition means to navigate or to root, right? To root down a boat, or to ground, or to anchor, right? That's the root word. But if you go back to Egyptian hieroglyphs, before there was language, before there was written words with vowels, it was represented by the M and the R, which ultimately gave you the pyramid. Or the pyramid represents civilization. So what is the M? The M, the easiest M is for mother, or the womb man, the one who in her womb is darkness, right? And we can take the R, like a sun ray, or Ra, or the eye of Ra, right, which is light. So you got dark and light. So if you go deeper into it, you got from darkness comes light. It's what you are. Your skin is dark, but you carry light. So what is light? Light is a soul, the light that lies within. So there's a sun in the sky, and there's also a sun within. What is the function of a soul? Your soul allows you to connect with your brother or sister and feel their pains, right? You don't have to go through what they go through to feel their pain, or the word compassion, right? To know that I'm doing wrong to my brother and I shouldn't be doing it. Or as the New Testament, love thy neighbor as thyself, is the soul. The soul allows one to do that. Without one, it's very difficult. And the pyramid is just a symbol of civilization. And he's like, oh, you just blowing smoke up my butt. No, I'm not. It's represented on the back of this $1 bill, right? So this pyramid is on this, my left, maybe your right, right? And then you have the eagle, right? Which is vine and fig trees are represented right here. So what does this pyramid mean again? It's the Moorish American symbol of civilization, meaning you had your own. And before there was a this in America, there was a this, right? So you have something called the Peace Treaty of Morocco, or we could even go to the Constitution, which says, we the people. Who are we the people? It's us. We the people grant these people right to exist and do commerce on our land for a specific period of time, which means we leased, because we're landowners. And you can go back and Moor, to be a Moor, the primary definition is a landlord. Primary definition. So a Moor, or the original man, if you land someone first, you lay claim to that land. And because you're first, you can't be last. So as a landlord in America, and having a soul, these people were experiencing the same atrocities that we experience now. Kidnapping, rapes, robbery, all these things. But our soul said, you know what? Since we have something that allows us to protect or give us a proper representation of ourselves, we should teach these people how to have their own government. And so that they can protect their own and have laws that prohibit the destruction of their society, right? And then we get to the primary definition of nationality, a people having common origins or traditions, or existing as a political autonomous entity, having national independence, right? In its relation to law. This relation generally enables intervention by a state or country to provide help and protection to its nationals when they are harmed by other states, right? So we could agree that Moorish American nationality is probably the least, or one of the least used phrases in America. However, they make up, I would say, a majority of the population. So the importance of having a nationality means one is he understands government. Also, he's protected by his own. So if there is a violation of a nationality, then we go here. Is a status that allows a nation to grant rights to its subjects for protection from other nations. So we could agree that hiding this will be there is so many reasons to hide this, right? To make one feel inferior, as if they can't grant themselves rights, or they don't have rights, and they only fall under subjects of these people, which is, hopefully by the end of this, you will see that that's not true, because these people allowed these people to come over and establish their own government. And you can go back, like I said, the Peace Treaty of Morocco, which is the treaty that said we will protect you guys and your ships to travel across seas with no harm done, because it was pirates invading ships that these guys were using for trade. Well, because we says, okay, we leased you guys the land, we can offer protection, because we're not here to destroy one another, we're here to help. And trade was the primary means of monetary gain. So why would we allow these people's ships to be attacked when eventually they're on our land and the commerce is going to come back to us? Because when you lease land, there has to be payment. So why would we allow our employees to be robbed when the money is eventually going to come back to us, right? So let's get to this vine and fig tree. Why is this red and why is that green? What does that even mean, right? So we can go to the red is Mars. It represents Mars, right? Or war, right? Red represents war or death, right? But on a lighter note, the green represents Venus and life, the morning star. And you can even take that as the best things for you, or your green. Granny tell you eat your fruits and your vegetables. Well, these are the fruits and this is the vegetable. So why the 5 star? Well, the 5 star is just like the 5 fingers on your hand and just like the 5 toes on your feet. It's balance, right? So you got love, peace, truth, justice, and freedom. The 5 pillars of who we are and what we represent, right? So if you go into it, I can't go deep into it, but I can in the future. The red represents the number 9, and the green will represent the number 4. You add them together and you get 13, which is a sign of rebirth, something that's going to continuously rejuvenate itself, which Earth does. How does she do that? Okay, well, from January to December, there's 12 months. But in that 13th month, or what's considered the new year, it's newness. So the 13 represents a constant newness. So things will die, and as they die, something will come alive. Balance, death, and life. It's constant. You can't run from it. Someone's going to die, and someone's going to constantly be replaced, right? So that's what this flag represents. And this flag is actually the flag of the land of America. And this flag represents commerce, trade. Like I said, the most important or the most vital thing for monetary gain, right? Because we understand you can have land, but if you don't have money or tangible things to trade, then you're just stuck squatting on your land, right? You can't build on top of it if you don't have resources, right? So, is this really real? It is real. So, the UN, or the United Nations, in 2015 released the Universal Declaration for Human Rights, And in Article 15, you can read this yourself. It says, everyone has a right to a nationality, and no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change. Meaning, oh, today I'm a black or I'm African American, because that's what I've been taught, right? But once you gather this information, you say, hey, I'm copper colored, which if we go back to the green, which is on our flag, represented by Venus, is also the metal which represents Venus is copper. So your skin comes from the metal of Venus. You can either believe it or reject it, but I'm telling you. So if we go back to the root word or the original definition of American, which says originally applied to the copper-colored tribes found here by Europeans, now applied to the descendants of the Europeans, but originally to the copper-colored tribes. So you are the original American. However, because there's other people claiming to be Americans, now we add the Moorish. So the Moorish represents our hue or our color, which denotes where we come from. So if you go all around the world, you're going to find Moors, because Moors did not, or Moors were not only subject to America. So if you could travel to the Philippines and you get the Moros of the Philippines. You can go to Africa and these are interchangeable. Vowels, there were no vowels when this thing was originally written. So then you would get M-A-U-R, and in Africa there's a Mauritania. Look it up. So on every continent there are Moors. So the copper-colored individuals are Moors. But because we're not the original Moors, we're Moorish American. Or you could be Moorish Khembodian. You could be Moorish Mexican. Your Moor is global. You being a Moor in your skin is global. So you always hear these people say, oh, I don't want to be black, or especially foreigners, right there. They always want to say where they're from. Oh, I'm Dominican. I'm Barbadian. I'm not black, right? And they're 100% correct, because they know that black has no relation to law. There is no black land. There is no white land. That does not exist. But there is a Mauritania. There is. You can look it up. So from there, we can establish that there has to be some truth to this word Moor, right? So we can establish that there's some truth to it. Then we can also establish that we should be allowed to enable ourselves intervention by our own country to provide help and protection for our own nationals. There should be no more dependence on this nation to do what our forefathers and ancestors have already granted us the willpower to do, right? But as long as we want to be white, black, Indian, colored, we're going to always be subject of this nation, and we're going to always be inferior. There's no one who's going to let you come into their house and allow you to be the ruler of their house. But once you realize, hey, I have my own house, I can be the ruler of my own house, right? So therefore, once you realize we, not you, we as Moors have our own house, we can then help each other overcome the atrocities, just like Mexican Americans or Chinese Americans. And what I mean by that is, if you get a Mexican, not a Mexican American, but a Mexican coming to America, before they have the proper guidance of, oh, I need to be a Mexican American, not just a Mexican and cross the border, they're already looking for some kind of common custom where they can find some help as soon as they come over here, right? And that is not a bad thing. It's actually lovely. It's what everybody should be doing. If I see you struggling, I should pull you. It's like having a rope. That's what your nationality is. It's like having a global rope. So if I say, oh, I want to go to Colombia, I need to reach out to my Moorish Colombians. Why? Because I'm a Moorish American. So if I come to your country, hey, you look out for me. Hey, if I come back to your country, can you look out for me? That's how this thing works, right? So it goes back to Micah 4:4. It says, one must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. Right? That's by law. Right? So with doing these things, we could even take Barack Obama for existence, right? A Kenyan American, right? Probably received the most backlash from any dark-skinned man, or he ain't too dark, but any darker skinned man in history, all because he wanted to climb the ladder of success. But they're like, hey, you need to stay in your place. However, Barack Obama wasn't just a black American. He was a Kenyan American, granting him nationality, right? So this meant that all the chitter-chatter that went on, it was great, but there could be no harm done. Why? Because this relationship, his nationality, Kenyan, enabled intervention by his state to provide him help and protection if he was harmed by these states. So by you claiming Moorish American and you spreading the word of this Moorish American nationality, you would just further the rope or continue to add links to our already constructed chain. Just by adopting, if someone asks you, oh, I'm Moorish American, or if it's going to need more time to get into it, but you could even say I'm Moroccan American, and that's for another day. But hey, so for now we're going to say, oh, I'm not black, I'm Moorish American. This is a global nationality. If you say, oh, I'm black, and you're in Cambodia or Egypt, okay, but black from where? What does that mean, right? Because even more, some people use the word more with black, or you can even go back to earlier texts and they will call us black or more. Why black a more? Because they wanted to black a more out of law. You look it up. So by using the term black, you black yourself out of law. Why being out of law matters, or being in law matters? Because it's the relationship, right? That grants you your rights and your freedoms. It's your status, right? As I stated here. So from this, there's so much I could go into this, but eventually by having a nationality, and once you link these chains up, eventually what you want to do is you want to start collecting funds on your already established nationality, right? So who's getting the payment for the lease on the land, right? You build up enough, you can start asking questions as to why, if we own the land, are we in last place, right? So if I own the house, there's no way I should eat last, right? Unless I want to, but that shouldn't be an option, right? So once you accept this and you start doing your own research, you'll start to ask more and more and more questions. No pun intended. But you'll ask more questions as to what does this mean? How does this apply to me? Right? And he said, I'm not inferior. Why am I not inferior? Because you're not. Because if all else fails, you're at least legally on the same status as Barack Obama or any other, as you would call, dual citizen who has a nationality. right? So with this, a couple things we could do to help each other is just approaching your kid and asking them, oh, what color are you? Right? And there's no wrong answer because they don't know. So you ask them, oh, what color are you? And eventually you want to try to get them to adjust to, oh, what color am I? I'm copper, right? Because then that puts me back into my original indigenous American status, right? So then you could ask them, oh, what's your, instead of saying, oh, where are you from? Or what's your ethnicity? What's your nationality? Son, what's your nationality, daughter? Oh, I'm a Moorish American, right? So eventually, if we adopt this term, Moorish American, we have one common identity. We come under our own vine and fig tree. So we have our common identity. We have our common flag. Then we get to create our own laws to protect us from being, I hate to use the word molested, but molested or disrespected by other states and their bounty hunters or police officers, as you say. So that's just a quick word, man. Hopefully we get more people using the term Moorish American instead of black, so that we could start collecting funds and creating our own commerce and eventually our own Moorish American towns or more towns, or then from there we can have our own, instead of Walmart, we can have a More Mart, or instead of a Foot Locker, we can have a More Foot Locker, whatever you want to call it. But we will know and we will be able to identify our own, just as in Chinatown they can identify their own. And what eventually does that do? It allows your dollar to circulate, right? Because if I'm spending money only in Chinatown, who gets rich? The owners of Chinatown, who's the Chinese, right? So eventually it goes back to this, a common racial ethnic group designed to help and protect. So we could then start doing things for our own selves with food shortages and all of this, and we could take that money and start providing the necessary items that we use on a consistent basis. Because I'm sure if you look at it, we're the biggest consumers of everything. We spend our money with everyone else. Well, how beautiful would it be if we had our own and we were able to spend with our own, and we could see the money come back. Hey, I'm going to spend $10 with you because I know you're going to come back and spend $10 with me. That's confidence, right? That allows one to say, I'm not going to be stingy or selfish and only think about myself. You know, I'm going to give because I know I'm going to receive. Well, right now, it's only, I wouldn't even say 1% of our population who's entitled or business owners, right? So we need more of that. We need more business owners. We need a common identity to identify ourselves so that we can begin to reap the benefits of a common identity, just as Mexican Americans and Chinese Americans, because Mexicans have Uncle Julio's, Pollo Rojio, and all of these things that you know exactly the region these things come from. So once again, I just wanted to curb some of the anxieties and reach out, because one thing I struggle with is, who is our Moorish American leaders? Where are they? Who's the Moorish American president? Who's the Moorish American secretary? Who's the Moorish American economist, right? So if this video gets me in touch with them, and then I can spread the word to the rest of the link. But initially, it's to spark the conversation. What is a Moorish American? Is this flag really real? What does it mean? Because someone said, oh, that's the Moroccan flag of Morocco and Africa. Well, we the people was 1776. Morocco, Africa was 1956. So I won't tell you how that happened. It's some homework for yourself. So Like I said, I want to get in touch not only Moorish American leaders, but leaders from other nations, leaders from other parts of the world, because there's no bias here. I understand that we are one. Back to this dollar bill, e pluribus unum. That's on the right side, e pluribus unum. The I guess it would be the Latin translation of out of one or out of many people, we are one. See, that's all that it means. So there's no, oh, I want to be bigger than you, I want to be better than you. No, I want to have the same economy you have. I want to have the same food production sites that you have. I want to have the same shoe factories you have. We want to employ our own just like you employ your own. Not because we want to be better, but because if we're a headache to you, let us be a headache to ourselves. Right? So, once again, my hope is to meet with leaders and regular people to just discuss these things and how we could further the Moorish American chain and get us going on our own independent pace. And that's it. Thank you for tuning in.